When you can say the top of the range in a model comes at just over €27,500 in Ireland, you know it's something a bit different. So this is Ireland's fourth best-selling 7-seater, and it's on sale just over 6 months in Ireland. That gives you an idea of why this car has won AA Ireland Overall Car of the Year at the recent inaugural AA Awards. It will carry 7 people. It has a really frugal 1 litre petrol turbocharged engine. The roof rails can take 80 kilos if you're into mountain biking and things like that. It's the longest Dacia they've ever made. It's about 4 meters long, and the wheelbase inside gives loads of additional space. You can take out the rear seats if you don't need them and just leave them in the house, or they're only 10 kilos each, so they're not particularly heavy. And when it comes to safety, there's quite a lot of stuff on the car, up to including frontal collision avoidance, a blind spot if you go for the extreme spec. The car does get a 1-star NCAP safety rating, and we'll get into that later on in the video because I'm not sure it's entirely fair how the Jogger has been judged, and we'll get into some of the reasons why it scored that 1-star NCAP safety rating. You can kind of make your own mind up then and whether it will be a car for you or not. If you were to take all the seats in the back of the car out, you're looking at over 2,000 litres. So, hey, taxi drivers, I'm looking at you, people that need to carry stuff around a lot, but also the flexibility of carrying people. The top spec gets 16-inch black alloy wheels. This is an extreme model of it, so you get black mirror housing. This is kind of like a bronzy copper colour. It's one of the standard paint colours. There's about 6 to choose from. You'll get a little bit of durable looking black strips over the side, and I'm always impressed by the roof rails that Dacia put on their cars, because you can very quickly turn the direction that they'll sit on top of the roof in, and the fact that they can take 80 kilograms on top just gives you more options if you are using the space of the car to carry people and you still want to go away. Because at the back, if you have the additional row seats up, the boot is quite small at 180 litres. It's doable for a couple of bags of shopping, but you might want to actually avail of taking those rear seats out if you're not going to use them all the time. There's a good bit of ground clearance in the car as well if you did want to use it somewhat in fields, off-road. I'm not quite sure. By the way, how do you make a new Jogger very cool? You stick a 007 reg plate on it. I noticed. So it's quite a large opening for the boot. You might potentially want to be careful where you're going to park in terms of walls and other vehicles. So it is quite small if you have that additional rear set of seats up. But it is very, very easy to take one of these seats out. So you have a little red cable here. You just tug on that. The seat will lift forward. There's a couple of red hooks that you just press down, and it's as easy as that to lift out those rear seats. And as I said, they're 10 kilos, so it's actually, you know, it's all right. You can fold them down as well, so you could actually chuck them maybe sideways in the smaller part of the boot. I'm not sure, but they're easy to get out and they're easy to get in. That's the main thing. All right, go on then. And yes, if you're having a picnic with your family, you could technically sit down in one of them and be very, very comfortable. So if I can get them in and out without getting stressed, I promise you, you'll be able to do just the same. And the boot closes pretty much one time every time. No, the middle bench does not adjust back and forward like in a more expensive 7-seater. It's a 24 grand car, which also can mean that the tray is a little bit difficult, but it does move. You can adjust it just about. There is space for your feet under the seats. I still have leg room despite that tray table. It's stadium style seats, so it actually goes a little bit higher as you go out throughout the car. There's no armrest because that's the middle seat. There's Isofix on either side. No Isofix in the third row of seats. The door pockets have capabilities of up to 1 litre water bottle storage. No, there's no air vents. No, there's no USB charging. But there is a good bit of height for the head. And you get a light up there. Oh. I'm not sure if you'll get to hear it on camera, but there is a church bell that has been going off for genuinely about 6 minutes so far. I hope there's no one physically ringing it. Now, depending on what spec you go for, you will or you won't get a radio. What? Yeah, they want you to integrate your smartphone. Now, they do give you a little holder for that, actually, here. They do give you a little shopping hook thing here. There's one USB charger here, and there's another one here. And that means you can landscape or portrait mode your phone. And it's actually, that's really handy. The only bugbear I have is if you don't put your phone on that, it rattles when you're driving. It's like a rattle sound. Again, depending on spec, you'll get a key card which you can just walk away from the vehicle and it locks itself. Get heated seats in the extreme. The fact that you can get wireless CarPlay in a car that will do, well, they officially say 5.5 litres per 100 kilometres, but it is about 6.5, 6.7. You've got cruise control. It's not radar cruise, but it's cruise. It is an awful lot of car for not an awful lot of money, if you get me. And if you go for the top spec, you get your own nav as well. But obviously, you'll just use your CarPlay and your Android. Sure, why wouldn't you? So it's like a Sandero on the inside. Climate, manual aircon, but actually it'll flip between climate and aircon. All models get at least manual aircon. 6-speed gearbox. Like, it really is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So let's talk about that 1-star NCAP safety rating, because if you're considering a 7-seater, you want to know it's safe for your family. First of all, the Jogger hasn't actually been tested. They took a Sandero and tested that, and NCAP deemed that was suitable enough. Now, you could also say, well, why didn't Dacia give them a Jogger? I don't have the answer for that. So where it actually scored poor was in the fact that the far rear set of seats, if you take off the seat belt, you don't get a beep. Pedestrians weren't particularly well protected. The bumper was okay, but the bonnet not so much. The frontal collision avoidance doesn't detect pedestrians and cyclists. Not necessarily the fact that it still will spot a car. So actually, when you dig into the NCAP, you kind of go, is it really fair? Have they really judged like with like? And if you want to read the report, it's all there. You can have a look through it and make your own mind up. But generally, occupants were, 70% and above. It's not a 5-star NCAP. I don't think any Dacia will ever get a 5-star NCAP, certainly in the next foreseeable. They're generally between 2s and 3s. But there's a lot of kind of question marks about, okay, well, I would like to know if my kids have taken off their seatbelt in the 3rd row. But does that make the car unsafe? I don't know. Seems a little bit unfair. You've got auto hill start, which actually comes in quite handy if you're on a hill like I am now. The reversing camera is quite grainy at night time. It's tolerable during the daytime. It's not the best reversing camera I've ever seen. Now, I have carried passengers in this car because one of the questions seems to be, and I don't know if a lot of reviewers have taken this into account. So it's 1,200 kilograms. It's a 1-litre engine. Doesn't even have 120 brake horsepower, but it does manage to work. So I've carried 2 kids, other adults, dogs, and yeah, you do notice it's a bit heavier all of a sudden, but it is actually up to the job. And if you are driving it on your own, which I get, the whole 7-seater thing, you're not really buying to drive it on your own. When you are in it on your own, it actually drives very well. It's because it's so lean. There isn't all this extra weight over the nose of the car. It handles well. The platform it's sitting on is Renault's one of the most up-to-date platforms. So, do you know what? It's not a dog to drive at all. It's not a dogger, it's a jogger. Okay? So, I don't know what that means. But anyway, it's actually, I don't want to say fun, but like, your 2nd gear, give it some beans, it moves. It certainly doesn't feel that it takes 11 or 14 seconds to 60 by any means. Here we go into a corner. I'm not braking, I'm in 6th gear. There's no body roll. Like, there's a lot to be said for 1,200 kilogram cars. And it's quick enough off the lights for the same reason. This one is blind spot, frontal collision avoidance. I've covered the fuel economy, not quite the 5.5 they're claiming, but look, you could drive it slower than I probably do, so Probably not being totally fair on it there. Steering wheel is comfortable. Yes, it feels cheap and plasticky, and there's no fake leather. Gearbox is direct. There's no sloppiness in it. The seats are grand. I mean, they're soft. There's not a huge level of bolsters on them. Lumbar support, forget about it. But, like, they're adequate. They're up to the job. Would I want to be sitting in it as a taxi driver? I don't know. I'm surprised about how it drives, because that is the part that you just mightn't be expecting from a 7-seater. A lot of them feel their weight. You know, they're set up to carry people, and there's not even a hint that they should be a bit of fun to drive. Actually, there's something very raw and old school about Dacias. So, look, it's not a big factor for driving it, but look, it's an absolute bonus that it's quite engaging to drive. There's even enough torque. Like, I'm going up serious hills now. For those of you who are familiar with Houghton, I'm in 6th gear, plenty of torque. I don't need to change. You know, it's kind of, in the driving sense, got the same characteristics as the rest of the car. It can do pretty much everything you want it to do. Just my thoughts on the all-new Dacia Jogger. It's probably the first time I've actually pronounced it correctly on the video. Old habits die hard here in Ireland. Let's not go into it. Look, it's a really great sized car. It's very hard to argue with the value in it. Yes, it's not the most modern in terms of gadgets, gizmos, how it drives, but actually you feel a bit more involved in the car. You could also look at it that way. The fact that it's already the 4th best-selling 7-seater in Ireland after 6 months in the market just shows you there is a massive appetite for cars that are actually good value. And this is the second time this week I've reviewed a car that's under €30,000. One was an EV, so I'm kind of scratching my head going, am I dreaming? What's going on? So to even have the top of the range one that isn't even €28,000 and a 7-seater, it makes it very, very interesting. Check it out for yourself. I got on absolutely fine with it. It's a straight up, no frills car, and if you want a 7-seater that ticks all those boxes, this could be the one for you. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.